This is Nina Lockwood. Welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Stories and insights that will inspire you to find new sources of happiness in your own life. Hello and welcome to Get Your Happy Back. Today I get to talk with Kim Perone. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Nina. Great to be here.
Thank you. It's great to have you. And we're starting something a little different with this podcast where I'm just doing a very brief introduction in the beginning about our guest. And then at the end of the podcast, we'll go into more of an extended bio. But I'll just say this much about Kim for now. So Kim is a well-being coach, consultant, and certified workplace mindfulness facilitator. And she's also a personal strategist, philosopher, and champion for her clients because, as she sees it, and I would agree, modern life and its complexity requires a strategic approach to creating balance, success, and joy. So let's talk about that because
Yeah.
I
Even
think
as I was listening, I need a lighter tagline. I'm getting to the point, it's been 9 years of being a coach after 20 years in traditional business. I was a communications professional for many, many years. And it's funny hearing that the place that I'm in, I really want my bio to be just like a woman who wants to be kind and loving and change the world. Is that too much or too little?
I think it's great. You know, I've said this in a few places that I think bios are very stiff and they don't really they tell you what a person has done, but they don't tell you that much about who they really are. So
Yeah.
in my emails, I put in things like cheerful disruptor, boundary pusher.
I noticed that when I saw, and I put that on my to-do list. This crazy, lots of notepads around me, disorganized mess of my to-dos. But I need to get on board with not writing what I think people wanted to hear and be more update. Like, and you know, if I had to write it this moment, I would say I am a generally happy person.
Well, that's perfect because that's what we're going to talk about today. What a coincidence.
Well, and the topic of your whole podcast made me just think and reconnect with, the Kim that I've always been, right? No matter the title, the credentials, the experience, that whole businessy side. You come up in that businessy side and it's really how you speak, but to connect with the me that's always been looking out through my eyes, and I get a sense of her. And I have to say that I was always a happy child. I'm very blessed. My parents were young and they were great at it. They were great at parenting. And they would say, Kimmy sing, Kimmy dance. I was the extroverted child of theirs that would dance and twirl and around the house and clomp in my mother's high heels and
Right.
gingham dresses and loved being a gypsy for Halloween. So that's who I really am.
I like that. That should go in your email signature.
I'm going to put that there.
So having been born happy, it seems, how would you define happiness? What does it mean to you?
Well, what it means to me, and this doesn't make it any definition. It's just how I interpret it. Is that I'd rather be laughing. I'd rather be smiling. In college, I had professors that actually said, wow, you have such a welcoming face. And so I don't see my face when I'm looking out at someone who's speaking, but apparently I look pretty happy when I'm listening to them. And so for me, and as a coach, I did do a little research. I had done a seminar on coaching happiness and realized that, 50% is the set point. So that's kind of where I mentioned, thinking about when I was a child, I was, my tendency was to be happy. And luckily there wasn't a ton that disrupted that. So, 10% are your circumstances and 40% are intentional activities. So as we get older, we can use that as a guide. But my definition of happiness is, letting life satisfy you, letting yourself be happy, letting yourself be happy and see things that could make you happy.
How do you do that?
So here's this image that came to me years ago when I did the seminar on it. I imagine that happy is out there in the world. And I'm looking out and it's everywhere. And it's jumping up and saying, hey, Kim, look at me. Look at me. No, look over here. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. And I'm going, I'm so tired. I'm so busy. I have to work on this, or I have to clean my house. And so when I imagine that, I think it's really everywhere. And it's our job to look for things that delight us everywhere. Look for things that can make us happy, to let it in, to open the door. Our brain is going to be very full of our worries and concerns and to-do lists.
Okay, so my next question then is, if you were in a dark room, maybe just a little bit of light, with nothing to see out there, could you still be happy?
Yes.
And why?
But it would take a lot of work. And I'll tell you, that's a very real example because I do struggle with seasonal affective disorder. And all of a sudden, my naturally sunny personality is very low and very sluggish. And I've recently been able to spend a couple of months in Florida in the winter, make it feel like summer in the winter, and to see the difference. So it does make me think about that dark room and without light, because even if there's too many cloudy days, I feel it. So it's not easy. And then there's that dark literal place, and then there's that dark place in our lives of the times that are very difficult, the times that there's extreme hardship. And it's not easy, but sometimes it can be a heightened sense that you have in a dark time. I personally went through a difficult period. It's what brought me to coaching. And even so in my adulthood, I talk about my happy-go-lucky, spinning, twirling, dancing, singing childhood. Very blessed to have had that, because in my adult life, very real tragedy struck at 35 when I was in a car accident with my two boys. And my 9-year-old son, Jack, did not survive. And my 7-year-old son, Stephen, did.
Oh my. That
So
is so difficult to get through.
it's horrific, and it's this unfathomable place. So your brain can't even comprehend what has just happened. And when it does, it's intensely terrifying and the darkest of all places. And what I found over time was I needed to find those happy things around me as a little way out of prison. It's like a prison of pain. So one example was my son, Stephen, survived. Okay, that was as blessed as tragically we lost Jack. So Steve, being only just turning 8, he was such a great window to happiness for me.
Mm.
One, that he was okay. Two, that he was 8 and he was just a little kid who was good at being in the moment, making jokes. And if SpongeBob was making him laugh, he was laughing because he was 8. He wasn't spending all his mental time being not in the now, being in, wow, he was in the accident too. And he we were thinking, how are we going to live the rest of our lives? So I said, I need more of that. That's what we need. And so my 8-year-old really taught me how to find some windows. And he's now 27 and he's
Mm.
engaged to be married. And that's a very happy time for our family and a happy milestone. And not to diminish the pain of losing a child, the things that we do to honor Jack and the times we suspend our need to know all the answers that we're not going to get. Why was my life was defined, this marked point of before and after, the before having 2 children and a white picket fence and a handsome husband and a great job, and this happening.
Wow. So there are so many things I could take away from what you're saying. I don't mean minimize what you're saying. I mean,
Oh, no, absolutely. I
you know
completely
what I mean?
understand.
That there is something, I was saying this the other day to someone, it's kind of a chicken and egg question because we've got to have something in us that is our base, our happiness base that allows us to recognize those moments that allow us to express it or experience it. So it's not so much that, which is why I asked you about being in a dark room,
Yes,
because if we are mindful and centered and grounded as much as we can, even when there is darkness, whether it's outside or inside, there is still something in us that our essential nature that has happiness to it. Not the kind of balloons and,
mhm,
you know, big bands playing but uh, it's deeper than that. There's a depth to it. It's hard to describe it, but it's something that's, is there. It's just that so much of the time we are looking outside for it rather than realizing it's inside us and looking for a way out.
sure. And noticing things. I think my
Yes.
first my first example was, watching my 8-year-old able to be in the moment. And in the moment, SpongeBob was making him laugh, right? So same with me. So then you go, okay, now I'm a grown up and I'm in a lot of pain. But if I was watching a sitcom and, a comedian said something that tickled my funny bone, I still had the ability to laugh. And I have to say, I had a colleague at the time. This is back in 2004 when we lost Jack. And he was just hysterical. And when I laughed, I remember how counterintuitive it was for our coworkers, because when I laughed, it was so real because it was like being let out of prison. And
Mm.
in those moments, it was so deep. And I think that's the depth that you were talking about. It's like it was so deep in me, this resonance of maybe human connection, humor as a human
Life.
quality, life. I was still here, didn't want to be here when you lose a child, go through all of those feelings, and yet I needed to be. Also, with an 8-year-old that we were blessed live, losing Jack and then Stephen, he deserved a good life. So now I had a real reason. We were going to laugh. We were going to take vacations. We were going to find lots of happy times. I was going to be darn sure of it.
So wise. Did you ever feel or hear from other people or get the sense from other people that it was wrong to find happiness or to laugh in the wake of that tragedy? That
I
it
think
was wrong to feel that you should be grieving and miserable?
I think it could have been confusing to a lot of people. I feel so blessed to have been surrounded by so many great people
Mm.
and happy people and loving people that I think it was more inspirational. And I feel like they were supportive. I know they were. I know a lot of people were supportive. And where
Mm.
another colleague of ours had said to my friend who could make me laugh during these dark times, if it just struck me as funny, it just was like a natural reaction, like my knee to a doctor, bopping on my knee, my reflex was to just laugh. And he had said to my friend, I can't believe you can make her laugh like that. And so I had heard about that after the fact, and I thought, that's really special. I know people are watching, and actually I was very much feeling like I was in fishbowl, but as I said, but very committed to having a happy life, not having people pity me, having a happy life for Stephen, my husband and I still doing things that would be happy. So he has a happy, normal life, because I thought my next nightmare would be the future and Steve saying I had a happy life and then it was gone.
Mm.
A very motivating sense of purpose around happiness for me personally.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I know we were touching on this prior to our conversation now, but what do you think gets in the way of insisting on finding happiness or
Oh,
expressing happiness?
so many things. But the number one thing that I think is our brain's negativity bias. And
Mhm.
so for people to understand that evolutionarily, we have grown these incredibly strong thinking brains that are very alert to danger. Because in the history of humankind, danger has been dangerous. And happy is great and all, but it's like icing on the cake, right? And if there's a threat to you, it could interfere with your survival. And if there's something good for you, it's kind of a bonus. So this is our brain's makeup. So it can keep us in our worries, fears, doubt, embarrassment, shame, anxiousness, all of that as a much more normal place. And it wants to be useful to us, so useful to scan the environment for those threats. But today, those threats aren't usually threats to our life. Most often they are worries that we have or busyness we have, or don't make that mistake again, don't let that person hurt you again, those types of threats.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. And don't you think that the culture and the media take advantage of that? In other words, when you look at most of the media, I shouldn't say all, but 99.9% of it is doom and gloom. And this is going to happen. And, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, and be very worried. And there's very little uplifting news that you can find when you scan the headlines or you listen to the news on the radio. So that, that they always say that kind of fear sells. And then you have the way we're raised, whether it's through schooling or other sources, that don't do this, don't do that, behave a certain way, act a certain way, don't show how you really feel, and act, always putting up a facade, so that really allowing yourself permission to be who you are and experience happiness, as well as grief as well as sadness, all things that we have the built-in resilience for, but this kind of uh, very narrow lane that really doesn't give us enough room to insist on being happy,
Yeah.
regardless of the external circumstances.
Now that I'm older, I have moments where I am becoming a happiness expert. And I'll give you some great light examples, because actually I'm a former communications professional. I was lucky to always be working with good things and happy and maybe more public relations oriented and community relations. So connecting with people, like really positive. But in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. If it is worrisome, it's, if your crisis communication was something I worked on, things of that nature. And I'm not so much just faulting the media. I'm going to go a level deeper, that they're really just finding what resonates, right? So they're just finding because they're all human beings too, right? We all have this brain. It's not just me and you. It's like we all could potentially be more hooked to the negative. So some of my lighter examples that I definitely wanted to share with you when I was thinking about talking with you about this is a most recent happy that just kept giving. It still to this day, it just keeps giving back. Is that about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, I started listening to Harry Styles music. And I'm a 55-year-old woman, and he won the Grammy like last year, so I wasn't the only one. It was an album everyone was listening to, as it was, and a lot of these other songs were played a lot. So I became this huge fan. It was a little silly because there were a lot of silliness about it, which was terrific. It was absolutely fun. So I'm on the treadmill, I'm watching his concerts, I'm listening to his songs and talking about him to my friends. And of course, his lyrics are a lot about love and acceptance. And so he struck a chord with a lot of people. Well, when my friends came to visit me in Florida, and they all came and each one kept giving me Harry Styles merchandise. So I got a bag, an air freshener, a pillow, a blanket, another blanket. And I will tell you, we had so many jokes about Harry Styles, and they could tease me about it, which was hysterical all the way around. And even my mother, I walked back in, she was with me in Florida, and she had, some Harry Styles merch. Oh, I got candles. Harry,
You
it
mean
was,
those tall votive candles with the
yes,
picture?
that kind. Then in emergency, listen, I can tell you, I burned them all the way down. We sat outside on the deck with those big, tall emergency candles with Harry's picture on it. And we just would laugh. And we would laugh. And it's the gift that keeps giving. The tote bag that I have that says peace, love, and Harry, every time I look at it, I think of my friends. I think of how much I love them. I think about how much I feel loved, that we just had this joke. And my friends were just participating in that with me, and it was just delighting all of us. And I think it's that lightness and the jokingness. Like happiness for me is when I land a joke with one of my friends or a group of friends or colleagues, and everybody laughs, especially when they laugh with their mouth wide open and they lean forward. Then I know I've really hit it. And I love that feeling. Nothing makes me happier than that.
So you're a jokester as well.
I like to land a good joke when people don't
Uh-huh.
see it coming. Yes, I do. There's some comedian time in my future as I keep adapting and readapting myself.
Well, I'll stay tuned for that.
Another happy for me too, and as I mentioned, losing my son Jack, obviously the antithesis of happy at the deepest, most profound level. Sadly, 4 years later, as we were getting our footing, my sister was diagnosed with cancer. and she had just had her first baby, my nephew Owen. And, of course, we rallied around her just like she rallied around us. This is my little sister. She was 33, and she died 11 months later.
Oh
So
my.
between the ages of 35 and 40, I lost both of them,
Oh
Jack,
my.
my 9-year-old son. And then my parents became bereaved parents as I lost my sister, my only sibling. And she was perfectly healthy, just the most beautiful, wonderful, amazing woman, my sister Kristen. And so in the aftermath of her loss, there was it was not like I've gotten over Jack, now I'm going to work and, get over this loss of my sister. No, it is a journey. It is a grief journey. It is a path that we take. It's something we have to take our tragedy and triumphs in life, and we rallied around each other. And in the aftermath, I did write a book, and it's not the book I thought I was going to write about grief and maybe compiling the journals that I had from the time after Jack had died, where I had kept journals. And I've always been a journaler my whole life, and I kept a diary when I was a kid. But I wrote a book called Vacuum Like No One's Watching and Other Lessons from My Mother. And
What a
that
great
started as
title.
a couple chapters, a couple vignettes. It started as not a book. And I had joined a writing group in the aftermath. And the more I wrote, the more it felt right to capture the essence of my sister and my mother and our time together. And my mother became the main character.
Interesting how these things evolve, isn't it?
It is, and it grew. It was just born. It was just freely, and I know you're creative, and it really came out of a tremendous hole of pain. And I shared, my mother is a very happy, resilient person, and so are my other family members. But really, as my husband said, it was kind of your love letter to your mom,
Mm.
and how that's how I was able to do the same. I was able to be happy because she is able also to still be happy, and the rest of my family as well, to still have happy moments moving forward, and to see the happy in the world, or the thing that you can appreciate. If it's sprinkles on a cone or a chocolate coating on an ice cream cone, it's okay. We do have to give ourselves permission for that kind of happy. And, my mom's a zany character, so that was a funny book. And it made me so happy that people enjoyed it. And I did weave in, obviously, my very real loss of Jack, where my mother was there, and other family members, my father too, and my stepmother, and my husband, all of us together. But then also to talk about Kristen, losing Kristen too. And so I was able to weave that into the book in a very genuine way. And as the synopsis is, it's a book of hoping and coping, and valuing what's left to love.
Mm. Wow.
But there are a
Amazing.
lot of funny jokes. There's some dark humor in it. My mom's still giving me lots of things to be humorous about. In fact, just recently, we were going to Connecticut, which is where my sister lived. And in my first book, I talk about the plots thicken, because after Jack died, we all got plots together. And then when Kristen passed away, after her cancer battle, my mother, made the decision to move to be near Kristen. And so she put up her stone figure, get it ready, locked in, she's all set, because that's the pragmatic side of Claudia. And so Kristen passed away 15 years ago, and we lost Jack. This is the 20th anniversary of losing Jack. And just a month ago, we were in the car and we're driving home. She goes, "Oh, I wanted to go to my grave." "Oh, no, I don't want to go to my grave. I don't mean I want to go to my grave. I mean, I want to go to my grave," because she wanted to wipe down the stone and put, weed the plantings. And I'm like, "We'll catch that next time, Mom. We'll go." But I said, "That's going in my notes, Mom." like that, because I'm like that was classic.
Brilliant.
For
Yeah.
us to know, we feel quite connected to Jack and Kristen, and it's not to make light of the long road it is. I actually do grief coaching now because there aren't enough resources to support people in
Mm-hmm.
their time of loss. We
Yeah,
live in a culture that doesn't really feel that comfortable talking about it.
that's
And so
right.
in a very real way, it's a journey, and in many cases it's a marathon and not a sprint. And
Mm.
so very real support there to those who grieve. And so, we've found our way to find happiness, and it's possible. And what I say is to those who grieve, it will find you. You don't need to figure out how necessarily to be happy. I feel like those moments will shine through. It's going to come through in your own resilience, from within. When you see something, you hear that joke, you feel that, you see that sunlight, and we have the capacity for it.
Oh, I'm so glad you shared that because, first of all, it's such a wonderful reminder for all of us. But in addition to that, I was just before you started to share that, I was going to ask you whether you thought, or the degree to which you think being able to love is related to being happy.
Oh, I think it's very connected. We don't numb our emotions individually, and it's dangerous to cauterize our hearts. And I thought that very, very vividly after we lost Jack. I'm like, where was it? Where was it that I saw someone who like shut down? And I remembered watching Ordinary People. And we all love Mary Tyler Moore, and she was phenomenal in that movie. And it was a heart-wrenching movie. I had seen it in high school, and I went and rented it again. And I thought, I remember the mom, and it wasn't good, and I have to go rent that movie again, and I have to watch it. And it was when we can't feel. So we do need to feel our feelings. We do need to take the grief journey so that it's not inauthentic happiness. It's not the crust that's kind of the fake happiness, but you're not really feeling anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so to your point, love is all there is. I mean, it's the basis of everything. So
Yeah.
love, being connected to others, and that's, where the love exchange is, friendship, spiritual love, not just romantic love. We need an expanded definition of love. It is at the very core of it's what we need to be happy. And that even the most introverted person who maybe is like, I like my cat, but I don't like people, or anything like that, they still, need and want love and connection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's still that need. And because it doesn't have to be 1,000 friends. It doesn't have to be 20
Right.
friends. It's
Right.
really just, do you feel connected in some way?
Yeah.
And I do think that helps with happiness. And it helps when they bring it out in you too, when they make you laugh and they do something loving, as I had shared examples about that,
Yeah.
with friends.
It seems like part of the definition of happiness is love,
Yeah.
because when you're feeling happy, you're feeling some degree of love, and there's no separation between you and the thing that you're experiencing.
It's true. When you're feeling happiness, there is love being felt as well.
Yeah.
And I
Love and
think,
connection.
my husband Dave's a pretty funny guy, and he makes me laugh. And you're talking about that makes me think, I'm going out so far to not talk about romantic love, because I think that therein lies the myth, right? Is that romantic love being kind of like the only kind of love.
Right.
And so I think it's certainly not, romantic love, certainly not a requirement. It's tapping into connection.
Yeah.
I have a German friend, and I remember years ago she said to me, You Americans, you love everything. I love this iced tea. I love that color on you. And it made me laugh and look at things from a different perspective. And I get a chuckle all the time now when I'm just throwing love out for everything. I love everything.
Right. It's possible.
It is possible.
And it's necessary these days.
It is. It is. And it's so necessary that I will admit that when I'm going through times where I'm too mentally cluttered, too busy, all kinds of things, confused, maybe over socialized, tired, didn't get enough sleep, I need someone to tell me to lighten up. And so another quick route to getting people to get their happy back is we need to lighten up.
So true. Yeah.
And so those things that you do when you are happy and in love, if it's dancing around your kitchen to music or, reading a funny book or whatever it is, the things we do when we're happy, write them down and remember them for when we're not happy. And maybe that's exactly what we should do.
Like vacuuming when no one is looking.
Yes. Vacuum like no one is watching. And I do not like to vacuum. And Claudia does like to vacuum. And so that is my mother. That people say, okay, which one of you likes to vacuum?
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm sorry to say that we're about drawing to a close with our conversation, but I would love it if you would share with people how they can reach you and any final words of wisdom that you have, of which you've already shared many.
Oh, thank you, Nina. And thank you so much for having me here as a guest.
My pleasure.
I can be reached at center4c.com. That's center, the number 4C as in cat.com. That is my shorthand for my business name, my coaching practice name, which is the Center for Clarity, Compassion, and Contentment. I know that's a mouthful. So that is where the Center 4C came from. And I also can be reached at K Perone, KPERONE at center4c.com. I also have a podcast, just hit 100 episodes. We have 3 more to drop yet. Thank you so much. So this has been a true delight to be a guest. And it's called Find Your Center with life coach Kim Perone on the Slightly Unmeditated podcast channel. And I've had a couple of happiness episodes in there too, and coaching topics and all kinds of good stuff. And I'd say the wisdom that I'd like to leave everyone with is give yourself permission to be happy, to see happy, to feel happy.
Preach it, sister.
Yeah. You too. Thanks so much, Nina.
You're so welcome. And thank you everyone for either listening or watching, and we will see you on the next episode. So bye for now.